Shabbat Shalom, family. Our scripture reading for today is Yohanan chapter 5, verses 2 through 4. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had.
Shabbat Shalom, family. Our selection today, Wade in the Water.
The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you're sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you up on earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Now, if you guys have been paying attention, of course, we know that a new king has entered the realm of the earth. And at the passing of the queen, you got a lot of things that have been said, and if you didn't know, it sounds like they're being, unfair to this little old lady. And what happens is you get won over by the little old lady syndrome. See, the little old lady syndrome make you think that the little old lady was an innocent person. Because we hear things that we're supposed to respect our elders. We're supposed to do all of these things. So then you see this old lady, and then you want to give respect. And then you hear all of these people at the death of this old lady, and they're saying all of these things. They're saying, one professor was saying, I hope she passed and had an excruciating death. There's another one that's, it's going from, and it's white people, black people, Indian people. You find all of these things, and it sounds like they're just being unfair to this old lady. But if you may be taken in by the old lady shield, this is where the old lady hides behind being an old lady, and you think that she's not capable of certain things. If you paid attention, some of those very things happen here in this congregation. We've had people who were supposed to, who pretended like they were moving down here to, and this is an old lady, pretended like she was moving down here to be a part of the church. And she automatically was starting a schism between the church she was in and this church. And she's going to tell me some things that this, priest said about us. And I'm like, well, look, I don't know who that is. And I don't really care to know what they had to say about us. But she was hiding behind the old lady shield as she was doing all of this. She pushed down. She came and stayed with some folks for about a week or so. Before you know it, she was living with somebody at the congregation down the street. So that means at the same time she was running the game to us, she was probably running that game to 2-3 more churches at the same time, trying to figure out which people she could move in the house with, having her move from whatever state she was coming from, because it was somewhere up north. That was the game. But she was hiding using the old lady shield. So if you are looking at this little old lady, you have not examined the facts, you're going to think that some of these things that these people are saying are absolutely unfair because, how aggressive or how of a danger could anybody be who have tea and crumpets? See, that's in your mind. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's what your mind's saying. So let's examine some things. Today's sermon is entitled Babylon AD. All right, we're going to begin in Luke chapter 21, and we're going to read verses 20 through 24. Luke 21 and verses 20 through 24.
And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is near. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Place in Israel that allowed the imposters to be there now calling themselves Israelis. We don't even consider that, but their history books tell the story. Just go in their history book. We don't have to make up anything. Go in their history books, and it's going to tell you of the horrible massacre and knocking all the way down to the bedrock that was done in Jerusalem. Go ahead.
Verse 22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and unto them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
See, that has already happened. That's how we got here. This is why certain people are not going to read certain things, because it's not going to testify of them. The children of Israel have already been led captive into all nations. That's how we got into all these places. And even when you talk about the people who are in the land who's supposed to be the Jews, they got them mostly out of Germany. They got them out of one place. That doesn't add up. It doesn't add up in the Old Testament, and it doesn't add up in the New. But if you're not careful, you're going to let somebody talk to you and give you low self-esteem about who you are. Then we got those government agents who have been put forth together to start organizations to give a bad name to us. And they're allowed to go on every corner and cuss everybody out. So everybody can say, oh yeah, I don't deal with them Hebrew Israelites. They want to present that as the face of what a Hebrew is. That's purposely being done. Keep reading.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles.
Right. That has been going on. That is how the people got in there now. That Jerusalem is trodden down of the Gentiles. And when they trod something down, they put in their own dummy government. Go ahead.
Until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
And that is the key part of the reading. The time of the Gentiles. What does that mean? That means that they have a prophesied time to rule the earth. All right? And you can do whatever that is you want to do. It is not going to change that time. All these brothers that want, hey man, it's time for us to go back to the land, brother. We need to learn Hebrew. We need to do all these things, brother. We need to do this. You can do all that you want to do. Did you read this? The times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. They have a specific time that they're going to rule. You ain't going to change that. I don't care what song and dance you do. You can go around, you can holler at every gas station, you can buy as many trips as you want to the so-called Holy Land that don't do anything holy at this moment. You can do all of those things you want. Until that time is up, nothing is going to take place. Go ahead, brother.
You know, that's the thing, is that we're not considering the time for everything. Even the demons know there's a time. Remember what they said to Yahshua? Have you come to persecute us before time?
Before the time. Right. And the demon let him know. Y'all sure? I'm looking at my spiritual watch, and it is not time for you to cast out demons and try no more. Nope. Check that out. Let's go to Romans chapter 11. Romans 11, and we're going to start at verse 13, and we're going to read that through verse 25.
For I speak to you Gentiles, and as much as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify mine office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them.
Tall hair don't care. Who's it back?
Okay.
Look at that. That hair could barely fit in the kitchen. Shabbat shalom, sister. Shabbat shalom. Go ahead, brother.
For if the casting away of them be the reconciliation of the world, what shall the receiving of them be? But life from the dead. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, and you, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partaketh of the root and fatness of the olive tree, boast not against the branches, but if you boast, you beareth not the root, but the root you.
And we know that the Gentiles have truly boasted against the children of Israel, because once somebody get in power, then you really find out what's in their heart. This is why it says the people mourn when a servant comes to rule. And you have to understand that the people who are ruling in America were the servants of Europe. They sent their have-nots here, and then their have-nots revolted against them. Go ahead.
You will say then, the branches were broken off, that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and you standeth by faith. Be not high-minded, but fair. For if Elohim spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not you. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Elohim.
Goodness and severity. Anytime we just want to deal with one part, we want to deal with the goodness, but not the severity, we have a problem. Anytime you want to deal with the severity, but not the goodness, you have a problem. So you're going to listen to some people, and all they do is preach good. God is love. Then you go to other people, and all they preach is gloom and doom. Oh, you're going to burn. Oh, you're going to die. You're going to die. You got a problem. If you can't deal with both sides of this spectrum, if you can't deal with the goodness and the severity together, you have a problem. Because whatever it is, he's that. That's why he says, I am that I am. Goodness, I'm that. Severity, I'm that too. So anytime you try to push him in a box, you're going to have a problem. So you stay the hell away from them God is love people. And you stayed away from them, God gonna burn everybody but them people. Because that's what they preach. Everybody going to hell and they gonna burn, except them. Stay away from both of them groups, because both of them gonna get you killed. Go ahead, brother.
On them which fell, severity, but toward you, goodness, if you continue in his goodness.
If you continue in his goodness. So that whole once saved, all saved is not even taught in the New Testament. That's why people got to stay away from certain type of Hebrews. You see, you're going to talk and you're going to mess around and you're going to read some scripture that's going to hurt my belief system. So I'll stay away from you people,
Because see, y'all like to read scripture. We don't like to read scripture like that. What we do is we light incense and we just play soft music. See, we chant.
All praise to the Most High.
We don't like to read scripture.
Right. So they got to stay away from you because you going to cause them a problem. You going to cause them some issues where they're going to have to start examining some stuff. So they taught to stay away from you. Go ahead.
Otherwise, you also shall be cut off.
Uh-huh.
And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Elohim is able to graft them in again.
Uh-huh.
For if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in.
Now wait a minute. Now we got two different individuals talking about the times of the Gentiles. They are testifying that there is a prophesied time of rulership that they have on the earth. And you can stand in front of that train if you want to. I'm telling you, it ain't gonna be good for you. You gotta know, okay, looking at what's going on here, the times of that is about to come to an end. But you stand in front of that train when it's in the middle of its power, it's been going for a minute, and you go,
Stop, train.
they're going to be picking up pieces of you for the next 5 miles. They go a piece of them, they put that in the bag. And you say, well, he was a good brother. He was good and stupid because he didn't understand that these people have a certain amount of time. You stand in front of them, you going to get ran over. So you got to know what time to do what. Think about how many uprisings we have already had. People will tell you, I can go back to the slave uprisings and blah, blah, blah. Yep, they did good for a minute. They did good for a minute. Come on now, we can joy in their minute. But when that minute was over, they was all dead. Okay? Why? Time. That same thing happens 20 years from now, and it might go totally different. Why? Timing. Timing means everything. See, somebody can go, and slap up an old washed up boxer now and be like, yeah, man, I beat the best boxer in the world. Yeah, you beat him when he was 100. You didn't beat him when he was 26. That's a totally different thing. It's not the same. Go ahead, brother. Did you finish that?
Yes.
Let's go to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2, and we're going to read verses 31 through 45.
Verse 31. You, O king, saw it, and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay.
So then you're talking about even as the empire breaks down, it is still a part of this empire. So thinking that you're going to stand in the midst of this time, Yahweh has already given this time. You have to respect that time. And when you're standing in a situation and you know, oh no, this day time, mine gonna come. You cannot push yourself against time. You gotta know that. Many of people, good people, have gone and done some things at the wrong time, and they ain't here. Go ahead.
You even got to think about our people when they say, oh, we going to go up now. They say, why you going to go up now? Yahweh ain't with you.
Exactly.
Time, and he ain't with you.
Right. The time you should have moved when he told you to move, And then when you didn't move, hey, the spirit gone. Well, no, we're going to go up now. You going up in vain. You going up in vain. Go ahead.
Verse 34. You saw it till a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces.
So this doesn't happen. You saw it till that a stone was cut out without hands. Stand in front of that image before that time and see what happened to you. Go ahead.
Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together.
All right. It's too strong at the start of it. Nothing's going to be able to get it. It's going all the way down to the toes. You got to then hit it on the feet. It's not going to crumble. Remember what we talked about the other week? We only want headshots. That's all we do is punch at the head, punch at the head. How the image coming down?
Toes.
That's the last thing we think about in a fight, toes. I remember first time watching a fight, and it was an MMA, and they put the heel and put it right on the toe. I said, what kind of crazy, stupid move is that? Until I saw the person limp. I said, oh my God, that worked. I said, that reminded me of some Three Stooges. That was Larry Moore and Curly. I didn't know that. I wasn't even thinking about the foot. Everybody trying to get a headshot. Put the heel to the toe. It was limping after that. And what you don't think about, all the rest of the shots don't go right when your balance ain't right. You can't even punch right. You can't even grab right. Whole lot of things go wrong. All we think about is headshots. Yahweh said, gonna get hit on the feet. You go over there and swing that image, go swing at the head of gold, see what happened to you. Go ahead. You bad. Your timing wrong. Go ahead.
And became like the shaft of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings, for the Elohim of heaven has given you a kingdom.
Okay. I need you to remember this part right here. King of kings. Now, this sounds strange. Now, wait a minute, because Yahshua is king of kings. Mm-hmm. Now, so wait a minute. There's a king of kings on earth. Remember that statement. Go ahead.
You, O king, are a king of kings, for the Elohim of heaven has given you a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven has he given into your hand, and has made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. And after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to you, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas you sought the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you sought the iron mixed with miry clay.
So then the kingdom is going to be broken. So we're talking about the world, the Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar. We then talk about the Medo-Persia Empire, the Greek Empire, then the Roman Empire, and then you look at the scattered part of what we are not really considering right now. But we're going to get to that. Go ahead.
And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken.
Partly strong and partly broken. Go ahead.
And whereas you saweth iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay.
This is why at the death of the queen, all of these people are starting to revolt. Go ahead.
And in the days of these kings shall be the Elohim of heaven. And in the days of these kings shall the Elohim of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, The great El has made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure.
Right. But this is going to take a very, very long time. This is why you have the things that are written in the New Testament saying the time of the Gentile. It is Daniel's prophecy that go ahead and puts in place the things that we read in the New Testament. So if you just read the times of the Gentiles, you don't connect this to this great image that's going empires, empires, empires. So we're talking about an enormous amount of time. You're not going to come in the middle of that empire. They have been given some time, and their time got to run out. So now let's read some things. Let's read some things about the British Empire. Go ahead, brother.
You know, I was just looking at verse 45, and if you don't see the spiritual portion there where he says, you saw the stone that was cut out of the mountain without hands, that's the work of Yahweh. The man has nothing to do with what's coming. So we got to be able to see the spiritual implications where he's running things.
And how did he get those commandments that were made out of stone? He cut them out, right? Okay. Go ahead.
British Empire facts. In the 16th century, Britain began to build its empire, spreading the country's rule and power beyond its borders through a process called imperialism. This brought huge changes to societies, industries, cultures, and the lives of people all around the world.
Now, if you pay attention, you heard Putin say we're fighting against the imperialistic ideals of the West. Pay attention. Go ahead.
What is an empire? Empire is a term used to describe a group of territories ruled by one single ruler or state. Empires are built by countries that wish to control lands outside of their borders.
Which automatically Yahweh doesn't give us the right to do. He said, when you go to war against an enemy that oppresses you in your land, you shall blow the trumpet and sound the alarm, and your Elohim shall hear you. Not one time did he say, now these people, you remember now, when you read the history books, you see the little bugle boy out there blowing his trumpet. You know he in somebody else's land, right? He in somebody else's land blowing his horn. Yahweh in no way,
Look, when you see a land that you want to have, make sure you call me with the trumpet and I'm going to take that stuff and give it to you.
That's not what I read. Go ahead.
Those lands can be close by or even thousands of miles away. For example, the Roman Empire, 1st to 5th centuries AD, stretched all the way from Britain to Egypt. Throughout history, empire builders have introduced new people, practices, and rules to their new lands and used its resources for their own gain, at the expense of the indigenous people, the people that inhabited the land first. This process is called colonialism. Pardon me.
So then you have imperialism and colonialism. Those are connected to the West. Go ahead.
This was no different with the British Empire.
Now, and one of the brothers' classes, we talking about the Rohingya people, who they call the most persecuted people on earth. Do understand how these people get to be in persecution. The British Empire comes in, takes over an area, and changes everything. Everything that is listed here. Change the language, change the culture, change people. Grab people from one area, push them in another area, use those people as servants, right? But then, after they have gotten a certain amount of control, they back out. What do you think happens in a land where all of these strange people are now left? Now they start killing them. And everywhere they pull this game, this is what happens. Then they get on TV and say,
we're trying to have peace between the nations. We don't know why they keep fighting one another. Pass me some more crumpets.
They fighting because that's what you set up. Go ahead.
How big was the British Empire? The size of the British Empire, the amount of land and number of people under British rule,
pay attention. Go ahead.
changed in size over the years. At its height in 1922, it was the largest empire in the world. It was the largest empire the world had ever seen.
Stop. We always thought that was Egypt. Keep reading.
Covering around a quarter of the Earth's land surface and ruling over 458 million people.
We're talking about this little place over here. See, this is how you get food when you see the old lady in her loafers. That you don't think the old lady in her loafers is ruling over a quarter of the earth. You let them loafers fool you. See, that's your problem. You don't think
Ain't nobody be gangster in no loafers.
that's a gangster in them loafers. And them ain't pennies in there. That's real gold in those loafers. Stole it from overseas. Go ahead.
Why did Britain want an empire? The 16th century is often referred to as the Age of Discovery. New things about the world and better shipbuilding led to more exploration and the discovery of new lands.
So this is how discoveries lead to more oppression. I tell people, let me tell you something. If they had night lights and electricity during slavery, we'd all be dead. We'd have been worked 24 hours. The thing that helped us is they couldn't see us. It got too dark. The dude went left and he came back right. Oh, hell no. Time out. Go to night-night. Night-night. No more cotton. No more cotton tonight. Can't see where they went. Done deal. If they had an ability to light up them fields, done deal. We'd be in trouble. So technology plays a real big part in oppression and how it is put in place. Go ahead.
England, in what is now Britain, wanted more land overseas where it could build new communities, known as colonies. These colonies would provide England with valuable materials like metals, iron ore, sugar, and tobacco, which they could also sell to other countries. The colonies also offered money-making opportunities for wealthy Englishmen and provided England's poor and unemployed with new places to live and new jobs.
Right. So they're poor and unemployed. When they go conquer something, they send they poor and unemployed over there. Thus here. And then they take that mindset and they say, all right, we were this there, but we gonna be royalty here. So they wanted them to go out and conquer other lands because that way their poor can still become royalty. They're not royalty in the motherland, but they'll be royalty in another land. So they want them, go conquer something else. Then I can send my cousins them over there and they can be kings over there. Here, we subjects. Go ahead.
And the whole thing is they've forgotten or we don't know that they still know where they come from because it's in their declaration. Send us your poor, your disenfranchised. So that they got it there. They know where they came from.
They know exactly where they came from. This is why anytime anything can be going on. Something happened about Britain, the Queen, and you'll see Gentiles just stop moving. They'll be in the middle of a sentence. They'll just stop talking to you. Yes, and I was going to. They mentioned the Queen. Oh, it is still top of their list. Go ahead.
But they weren't alone. Other European countries were also exploring the world, discovering new lands and building empires. And building empires too. The race was won. And England did not want to be left behind.
Go to the next graphic.
The first British Empire. The first English colonies were in North America, at the time known as the New World. Creating colonies was no easy task for the English. In 1585, the famous explorer Sir Walter Raleigh tried and failed to build an English settlement at a place called Roanoke in Virginia. It wasn't until 1607 that Captain John Smith founded the first permanent English colony at Jamestown in Virginia. Over time, the English would claim more and more territories. This sometimes meant fighting with other European nations to take over their colonies.
Right. So this is where you get this imperialistic thought process that you hear here in America, that it was their manifest destiny to go all the way to the edge of this country. They were already, when you talk about these colonies, then you're talking about like the East Coast and the South. Oh, no. They wanted to control all of it. There were other countries that had certain little things. No. We want all of it. It was their manifest destiny. They got to get all the way to the water. The only thing that stopped them is the water. So once they hit land, they wanted to spread out in every area and control all the land that they could get to. And manifest destiny is a really nice way of saying that you covetous. Because see, manifest destiny mean that God wants you to be covetous. He wants you to go and take them people's land. Show them how to live. They don't know what they're doing. Go ahead.
You know, if you look at your history, I think Magellan and Ponce de Leon got here even before them. And then,
hey man, well, you look at half. That's why you have, man, you got Spanish stuff in one part, French in one. That's why you go to New Orleans and you don't know what the hell going on. They got everything. They got everything going on. You're Spanish on one side, French on another side. You like, we what? Go ahead.
Over the course of the 17th and 18th centuries, England gained major colonies in North America and further south in the West Indies, today known as the Caribbean Islands. Here, the climate was perfect for growing crops like sugar and tobacco, so they set up farms known as plantations. Trading settlements were also created in India by a company called the East India Company.
Right. So they have companies. To this day, their evil is done through commerce. It's done through businesses. So you have businesses that are doing all of these things overseas. And you're getting some of these things. You see the Caribbean islands. See, we go ahead and keep this 1,000. When I was young, people like Kish wouldn't have talked to me. See, the Jamaicans didn't want nothing to do with this common cotton picker. Yeah. Because see, we were enslaved by the daughter of Babylon. They got enslaved by Babylon, so they thought they were better than us. See, they got enslaved by the imperialistic mother. See, so they was like, you didn't even get enslaved by the mother. So the Jamaicans wouldn't talk to us. Don't act like you don't remember. You know what I'm saying? Don't act like you don't remember. You know what I'm saying? See, I find it, very interesting that y'all keep sending these Jamaicans in here, because I remember when I was young, Jamaicans wouldn't talk to us. Go ahead, brother, I want to hear you.
You know last week's class where he said he had a different heart in him? I got in trouble many times because I didn't care where people came from.
Hey, man, I remember a day, but what happened is colonialism puts thought processes in the heads of all the people that it rules over. And it uses that thought process to divide those people and make them fight amongst one another. So this group don't like this group, and that group don't like this group. And they the same group. That's what colonialism does. That's how it prospers. That's why, I'm looking at a brother who looked just like me. I mean, his hair different, because he got dreads and they long. But he looked like me. But he don't want to have nothing to do with me. Why? Colonialism. Colonialism told him not to deal with me. Go ahead.
This company became so powerful, it allowed England to control the trade of luxury goods like spices, cotton, silk, and tea from India and China, and it even influenced politics. The years 1775 to 1783 were a turning point in British history, as the nation lost a huge part of its empire in the American War of Independence. Feeling American rather than British and resentful of sending money back to Britain, 13 colonies in North America united and fought to be free from British rule.
13 colonies united. So they learned from that mistake.
See, we're not going to let the colonies unite anymore.
They learned from this mistake right here. See, this is something that they realized, they was building this vast, network of colonies. And of course, you wanted them to be close, together, but then that also worked against them. So they learned from that. They're not going to make that mistake no more. Go ahead.
With the help of Spain, France, and the Netherlands, they won the war and gained independence, becoming the United States of America. This marked the end of what is now called the First British Empire.
All right, let's go to the second one.
The Second British Empire. Although Britain had lost a huge part of its North American territories, it claimed new lands in the late 18th century and early 19th century, forming the Second British Empire. Colonies were founded in parts of Australia and later Trinidad and Ceylon or Sri Lanka, Singapore and Hong Kong, China, as well as other parts of Asia.
How do you have to, just think about that. Britain ruled in China? Go ahead.
From 1881 to 1902, Britain competed with other European empire builders in what became known as the Scramble for Africa. By the early 1900s, huge parts of Africa, including Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria.
That's a niggeria. Don't say that. We know that's a nigger. It is a Latin word for black that when we read Niger, that's a nigger. That, my friend, says niggeria. Don't look at me like that. Don't look at me like that. Read it like you're supposed to read it. Read it again.
Including
Egypt,
Kenya, and Nigeria.
niggeria. Say it right. Say it right. Go ahead, bro.
And large areas of southern Africa all came under British rule. The British Empire was larger and more powerful than ever. As Queen of Britain, Queen Victoria was also queen of all the countries in the British Empire.
Now we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Remember now we had a term, King of Kings. Go to the next graphic.
Can I read this last
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
She was even Empress of India.
Empress of India. Check that out. Ain't that deep? And what else? Go ahead.
She's pictured on a Canadian postage stamp during her reign.
Canadian postage stamp. So they're going all over. We see the old lady shield.
It's just a little old lady having tea and crumpets.
You don't know how many people that little old lady done enslaved. You don't have any idea. Go to the next graphic.
The British Empire and indigenous peoples. The power and wealth that Britain gained as it built its empire came at a price. And tragically, the price was paid largely by the indigenous peoples, tribes, and communities who had lived in Britain's so-called new lands for centuries.
So they was already there. So now as the queen dies and people start making these statements, you think they're being unfair to her. But understand, these people have been getting oppressed as soon as she got there. Understand that. Go ahead.
The unjust treatment of indigenous peoples ran the course of the British Empire. For example, in North America, local people were taken advantage of by greedy traders, robbed of their land, and even faced violence and death at the hand of British settlers. During the Second World War, India suffered some of the worst famines, lack of food, in human history, partly caused by the British government taking vital supplies away from the Indian people to support the war effort elsewhere, causing the death of millions.
Death of millions. Taking their food so they can go and feed, some soldiers on another campaign. So when you hear these statements, you think that these people are just, it's real dirty to see that as somebody's death. Hold on. You got to understand how many of their people have died because of the imperialist colonialism that comes from the West. You think these people are being unfair? Go ahead.
Indigenous peoples in Africa were affected in their millions. The British took valuable materials like gold, salt, and ivory out of Africa and sent it back to Britain and elsewhere. The British were also heavily involved in the transatlantic slave trade in West Africa.
Right, but they wasn't the only ones. See, the Africans sold the Hebrews. See, that's why when you meet an African, they be sitting there looking at you strange. Because they want to know if you know that they still got the receipt. They want to know if you know. That's why they don't really deal with you like that. But what they didn't understand, while they were selling us, the British was still looking
We coming back. Look at that land. Look at that. He's standing in oil. He think that's mud. We getting all that. Look at all those resources in there. We coming back.
They didn't know. Oh, you thought it was over when you sold us. Now look at what's happening to Africa. And they don't understand why. When you made a deal with Britain to sell us, you didn't understand. You thought the deal was over. You didn't understand who it was you was dealing with. They was coming back. Even to a point where they call it the scramble for Africa. How you think they got to look at it? They told you they were coming to buy one thing. They're looking at everything else.
So where else you got some slaves? Did you see the size of that fruit?
Right. They came back. Go ahead.
Many indigenous peoples, including indigenous Australians, lost not just their land, food, and possessions, but their traditions too. When British settlers arrived, they forcibly replaced the beliefs, language, and traditions of indigenous populations with their own, removing their cultural identities.
This is a part of what colonialism does. You give them another belief system so that they're easier to rule over. Go ahead.
Governments and settlers drew up new borders and land boundaries that split the local people into new countries and categories that didn't represent them or reflect their heritage, history, and customs. In some countries, these changes are still a source of conflict even now.
Right. So there's certain countries that you find angry or fighting one another. It is all because of the colonialism that went there. They didn't have an issue with one another until the West went over there. There are some flags that you might look at the country's flag. They didn't pick that flag. The West did. The names that were given to some of these countries, they didn't pick them. That's why some countries changed their name. Because they wanted their name to be from them and not the name that was given to them by their oppressor. And they wonder why we changed our name. Go ahead.
Today, many indigenous communities are trying to reconnect with the heritage the British tried to erase by celebrating their cultural identities and protecting them for the future.
All right. So right here, I want to pause and let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. And we're just going to read a couple of verses here. Deuteronomy chapter 28, and we're going to read verses 64 through 68.
And Yahweh shall scatter you among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there you shall serve other gods, which neither you nor your fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Okay, so Yahweh has placed this punishment upon us after repeatedly trying to get us to walk in the culture. And people don't see the positive thing of walking in the culture. Even till now, you walk in the culture and people are like, I don't know why you doing all that. That's because you don't understand why you have been a slave. See, people they're scared to ask that question. If your God is the same God that the Christians worship, why that same God made you a slave?
Well, it was his God prerogative.
Yeah, right. Read. I tell you that. See, we don't want to know the answer to that. We're scared to ask that question. Go ahead.
And among these nations shall you find no ease, neither shall the sole of your foot have rest. But Yahweh shall give you there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind.
As it is to this day. Go ahead.
And your life shall hang in doubt before you, and you shall fear day and night, and shall have non-assurance of your life. In the morning you shall say, would Elohim it were evening. And at evening you shall say, would Elohim it were morning. For the fear of your heart wherewith you shall fear, and for the sight of your eyes which you shall see. And Yahweh shall bring you into Egypt again with ships.
And people try to debate all the time what this means.
See, this don't mean, with ships and, regular ships, they walked and you can
try to debate this all you want. Egypt was bondage. I'm going to send you into bondage again by way of ships. Understand, what opened up the whole imperialistic regime was the ability to move across the earth. Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spake unto you, you shall see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
No man shall redeem you. That's what it means right there. You shall be sold unto your enemies. Do you even understand who your enemies are? Your enemies are anybody who tries to get you to walk against the culture that was given unto you. That is your enemy. Let's go to graphic number 17.
Slavery and the British Empire.
Uh-huh.
One of the most horrific parts of the history of the British Empire was its involvement in the trade of enslaved people. People who were made the property of others and forced to obey their owners' demands. Throughout history, slavery has existed on all continents and in many societies.
See, and that's what you're gonna get if you talk to. Now this will throw you off, because you'll hear some Gentiles say that, but you expect them to say,
Well, slavery was everywhere. So, what makes y'all slavery so different?
now what'll throw you off is when you hear an African say it. Because you look at a dark-skinned person who got the same skin tone as you, and they're saying, well, slavery was everywhere. Why are they saying that? Because they know they sold you. Talk to them long enough and you'll find out. Oh, they know that their folks traded slaves. They know that they helped sell you. That's why they operate like that. They don't really want to be connected with us. I'm fine with it. Go ahead, brother.
But when the European imperialists arrived in Africa in the 15th century, they began the most organized slave operation the world had ever seen.
Right. See, now they brought business to this thing. They ain't no more just, saying, hey, throw out a net and catch a couple of them. Oh, no. They did it like business. All right, look, you got some people. We need some people. We gonna pay you, round the people up. You never wonder how 4 white men come over and take, 3,000 black people? They was rounded up by people who look just like them. And they'll tell you, neighboring tribes would fight one another. No. Y'all know exactly who y'all was selling. That was the whole thing about Amistad. He could prove he was an African. Mm-hmm. And when he was able to prove that he was an African and not a Hebrew, he was free. Even in Roots, they said, Kunta Kinte said, I'm a Mandingo warrior. He said, who them people? Oh, them people, they don't know who they are. Now, what was the difference between him and them?
He's an African.
The Africans who could prove they was African was sent back. As soon as we see somebody, we want to latch on to him. Hello, my brother from the motherland. They go sit down somewhere. Read, priest.
The transatlantic slave trade. Over the next 400 years, European traders bought and sold an estimated 12 million African people.
Hold on now, people will try to play with that number and try to tell you,
it wasn't even that many slaves.
you're going to hear that from both sides. I just want to let y'all know, this came from this is our school lesson right here. This came from Nat Geo Kids. National Geographic Kids. Figured y'all need a kiddie lesson today. Go ahead, bro.
Who were forcibly taken from their homes and shipped across the ocean to the Americas and Europe, where their buyers forced them to work. Of those 12 million Africans, British slave traders are estimated to have bought and sold over 3 million people, although only 2.7 million are believed to have survived the journey.
Right. Now, how do they know that? Because it's all about commerce. They're keeping the numbers for business. Understand, when they got to throw a slave off the ship, because it was either too heavy or they, too many died on connected to that chain, they had to go ahead and unlock the chain and throw them away. They claim those on insurance. They got paid for the ones they had to throw off the ship, right? How you think they got these numbers? Why you think they had these numbers? Because it was commerce. See? The other things that happened before, we were not able to make an accounting of it. But you can make accurate accounting when it's business, because then they turn in the paper. All right, I had 2,000. I had to throw off 150. Here go the empty shackles. I need to be compensated for these 150. They still got paid. That's how you backtrack through the paperwork. And it's their paperwork, not ours. Go ahead.
I mean, even up to this day, major corporations have already factored in their yearly estimates loss. That loss is already there. So when you see theft happen and the Caucasian gets a slap on the wrist and sent out, they ain't lose nothing.
Right.
But we are made an example of.
Right.
Even though they still gonna write that loss off.
Exactly.
During which they were cruelly packed on ships in crowded, dirty conditions. Many enslaved people were only children, like you, and were separated from their parents and siblings. Slavery made Britain incredibly wealthy. It provided slave owners with unpaid labor to farm expensive items like sugar, tobacco, and cotton, which they could sell for huge profits at the expense of the enslaved people and their homeland. It also largely funded Britain's Industrial Revolution, which only went on to make Britain richer.
Right, but you have to look at even how they have their setup. There's some people that's really going off about, they have an inheritance tax, but King Charles is not subject to an inheritance tax. He about to get billions upon billions upon billions, but he won't be taxed on it. The other people will. Go ahead.
Britain banned the trading of enslaved people in its empire in 1807, known as abolition. But it was a further 26 years until it outlawed slavery altogether, known as emancipation.
So once they have things under control, they no longer need to dirty their hands with it. All right? It's like the street level drug dealer and the cartel supplier. You'll never catch the cartel on the corner. That's low level runner stuff. Okay? This is where they sit. Once they get to a certain part, they can clean their hands and look like business dealings. Oh no, we outlawed slavery, but we have some colonies where they're slaves. But we don't allow it here. Right. Go ahead.
Although, even when free, former enslaved people continued to suffer in racist societies. People considered them less important than white people and used these beliefs to help them justify the former trading of enslaved people. Even when slavery was abolished, former slave owners were paid compensation by the British government for the loss of their human property.
Stop! Read that again.
Even when slavery was abolished, former slave owners were paid compensation by the British government for the loss of their human property.
They got paid because they lost the slave. Keep reading.
No compensation was paid to the enslaved people themselves.
Right. So they talk about reparations. They paid reparations to the slave owner.
Now we're going to outlaw slavery. I know you lost some knuckles. Here, all y'all, take this.
What? Go ahead.
The compensation sum was vast.
Vast, all right? Check out, they got paid big bucks. Go ahead.
And in fact, the loan taken out to pay for it was still being paid off by British taxpayers as recently as 2015.
They just paid off their slave bill. And they think it's strange. How dare these people ask for reparations? They pay reparations to the slave owners. But you keep looking at the old lady in the loafers, and you think, how much evil can anybody do in some loafers? Okay, keep going, brother. Where we gonna go? We're gonna go to Jeremiah chapter 22.
And it's funny that now that this is happening, they don't want to be responsible for anything. I think it's Benin or one of those countries England has artifacts of theirs and they want it back. And they telling them, well, you know, it's in good hands, it's in good care, you know, why wouldn't they let us keep it? Why can't we share it, was what the dude was saying. Share what? You stole my stuff.
Right. See, now all of these people, all of these countries are coming out. And we're going to get to these things of countries because you ain't going to believe how much it really is. All right? I want you to read right there, Jeremiah 22, and I just want to read verses 13 through 15.
Woe unto him that builds his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong, that uses his neighbor's service without wages and gives him not for his work.
It lets you know right in a children's teaching manual that those expensive castles and all the beautiful things you're going to find, if we're going to go to London, we're going to go to, that was paid for by slave trading. They built them castles on the backs of slaves. See, we know that happened in the South. We know when we passed by antebellum home, we know that was an old slave house. We don't consider that when we talk about Britain. Go ahead.
That says, I'll build me a wide house and large chambers, and cuts him out windows, and it is sealed with cedar and painted with vermilion. Shall you reign because you clothed yourself in cedar? Did not your father eat and drink and do judgment and justice, and then it was well with him?
All right. Now, this is many former slave owners went on to invest their compensation money in businesses, some which still exist today, or in development projects like the British Railways. Therefore, even though slavery had ended, its legacy continued to live on. In fact, you can still see the evidence of the profits of slavery in Britain today. Just take a look at the impressive 18th and 19th century buildings that line cities like London, Liverpool, and Bristol, and the grand stately homes in the British countryside. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 25. See, they don't want to tell the descendants of the slave masters who built the business by getting free labor from your ancestors. And you in there begging for a job. You supposed to own part of the place. And you asking, can I sweep y'all floors in there? You supposed to own the floor. Jeremiah chapter 25, and let's read verses 1 through 14.
The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Yehuda in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Uzziah, king of Yehuda, that was the 1st year of Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon. The which Jeremiah the prophet spake unto all the people of Yehuda and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, From the 13th year of Uzziah, the son of Amon, king of Yehuda, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of Yahweh hath come unto me, and I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but you have not hearkened. And Yahweh had sent unto you all his servants the prophets, rising early and sending them, but you have not hearkened, nor inclined your ear to hear.
And all you have to do, consider how we've had to deal with individuals. You go and talk to them, you can't convince them. They swear that their perspective is right. Yahweh is sending prophets unto Israel, and they ain't gonna hear them. You can't tell them nothing. You can't convince them. Then when the punishment comes, then here we go crying. No, I sent you prophet after prophet. Same thing that happened with us. He sent us individual after individual. You need to change your ways. Hey, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Hey, this right here going to cause you a problem. We don't want to hear that. Then when we end up in a bind, now we want to cry pitiful. We want to cry to everybody. But we don't want to listen to none of them people. The very people that told us to stop doing it is the very ones we call, can you help me? I need some help. Wait a minute. I was trying to help you, giving you good counsel when you was in the situation. You didn't want to hear nothing I had to say. Now your ears work. Go ahead.
They said, Turn you again now every one from his evil way, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that Yahweh has given unto you and to your fathers forever and ever.
But it's hard to tell people that when they already living in the land. How you gonna tell me to dwell in the land? I'm dwelling in the land. You gonna tell me do justice and judgment? I'm doing wrong and I'm living wrong. What are you talking about? They don't understand that until it's taken away. Go ahead.
And go not after other gods to serve them, and to worship them, and provoke me not to anger with the works of your hands, and I'll do you no hurt. Yet you have not hearkened unto me, says Yahweh, that you might provoke me to anger with the works of your hands to your own hurt. Therefore thus says Yahweh of hosts, because you have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, says Yahweh, and Nebuchadrezzar the king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment and an hissing and perpetual desolations. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones, and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be desolation, and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years.
So Yahweh already gave us a small version of the punishment, giving us the 70 years. When that don't work, he's got to go on another level. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, says Yahweh, for their lawlessness, and the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it perpetual desolation.
So Yahweh has already given us an example. I'm going to use a nation to punish you. But when your punishment is over, I'm going to punish that nation for touching you, because they still touch the apple of my eye. See, this is how Yahweh poetic when he deal with things. See? He going to use them to whoop you, but then he going to whoop who whoop you. Because they whoop you. But he used them to whoop you. Then after the punishment over, he said, why did you touch my servant?
But I thought you wanted me to.
Go ahead.
And I'll bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah has prophesied against all the nations. For many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also, and I'll recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their own hands.
So there's going to be many nations in the judgment that Yahweh has to bring forth concerning the children of Israel. Let's go to graphic 22.
Why did the British Empire collapse? Over the course of the 20th century, Britain's empire broke down in stages. After the First World War, 1914 through 1918, there was a feeling of nationalism sweeping the globe, whereby countries should have the right to be independent and rule themselves. In 1926, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa became independent, meaning they were no longer under British rule.
Now, understand something. That's on paper. When you have company, remember how they push their rule through business and commerce. If they set up enough business and commerce, they can relinquish control to the country while still controlling the country without taking any of the blame for what actually happens in the country. Go ahead.
So, why were these countries given independence first? Well, by this time, these countries had large white populations of European descent.
Stop. Hear that. Once they get a certain population number of their people with their culture, they can give the country over to the land, but it's really giving it over to the descendants of their people who's really ruling. That's why people say, if you go back, you can find the royal blood in almost every president who has ever been there. Keep going down and you're going to find that these individuals have royal ancestry. Go ahead.
If you look, this is what China is trying to do right now.
And why not? They don't watch the people. They watch Britain do it in their house. You mean to tell me Britain owned Hong Kong? Once you do something and the people watch you do it in their house, of course now they're like,
You know what I think we need to do? We need to do what they did to us. We need to figure out how we can go find something to control.
go ahead.
living under the rule of formal governments. They were therefore considered to be more experienced and able to run their own country successfully, which would benefit the empire as a whole.
Right. They still get money, right? They still got to pay the mother. Go ahead.
Racist views held by the British at the time meant that other British colonies with large populations of non-white people weren't granted independence even when they asked for it.
Right. So if they didn't have enough white people, they were not granted independence.
Because they like, you know what, they're going to try to rule and keep their own culture.
Go ahead.
Over the next decades, however, the remaining colonies continued to push for independence. After the Second World War, Britain no longer had the wealth or strength to manage an empire overseas. Many colonies had fought for the British during the war, although people of color were mainly given low-rank positions and were making their own plans for independence. In 1947, India won its independence, and from the 1950s to 1980s, African colonies also fought and won their independence. The last significant British colony, Hong Kong, was returned to China in 1997.
1997. So up until 1997, the British control Hong Kong. Go ahead.
What had taken hundreds of years to build was broken down far quicker. That said, there are some small fragments of the British Empire that still exist today, known as British Overseas Territories. These are mainly self-governing countries separate to the United Kingdom that continue to share a bond with Britain. They include Anguilla, Bermuda, British Antarctic Territory, British Indian Ocean Territory, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Falkland Islands, Gibraltar, Montserrat, Pitcairn Islands, St. Helena, Ascension and Tristan da Cunha, South Georgia and the South Sandwich Islands, and Turks and Caicos Islands. Dominance and Dominions, Britannica.com. The 19th century marked the full flower of the British Empire. Administration and policy changed during the century from the haphazard arrangements of the 17th and 18th centuries to the sophisticated system characteristic of Joseph Chamberlain's tenure, 1895 through 1900, in the Colonial Office. That office, which began in 1801, was first an appendage of the Home Office and the Board of Trade, but by the 1850s it had become a separate department with a growing staff and a continuing policy. It was the means by which discipline and pressure were exerted on the colonial governments when such action was considered necessary.
Right. So then they had this system. As they grew to a certain level, they learned to create these certain governments. When you look even as the certain things that they did over in Iraq, you look back far enough, Saddam Hussein was on America's side. And it throw you off. But then once they get to the point where they want to actually rule for their own, a mysterious bomb goes off. And you can't find them. They forgot that they were supposed to be a puppet government and decided that they were going to rule by their own means. So they had to go. Go ahead.
New Zealand became officially British in 1840, after which systematic colonization there followed rapidly. Partly owing to pressure from missionaries, British control was extended to Fiji, Tonga, Papua, and other islands in the Pacific Ocean. And in 1877, the British High Commission for the Western Pacific Islands was created. In the wake of the Indian Mutiny, 1857, the British Crown assumed the East India Company's governmental authority in India.
Wait a minute, now this is East India Company. So they set up a company, used the company to create all of these things, then assume the company. So by assuming the company, they assume the country. All of this is still done through commerce. This is business dealings. And you wonder why corporations run America. This is why individuals pay tax. Man, there are people that'll tell you point blank. Waka Flocka recorded something about a conversation that he had with Trump. And he said, yeah, Trump told me how he didn't pay taxes. He said, oh, it made perfect sense. You get your LLC, you stop putting stuff in your name, and you get a business to cover the business. The business can write off expenses, a person cannot. That is this a rapper telling you point blank how not to pay taxes. He said, man, Trump told me exactly how to do it. Businesses. So when you watch this control of what's happening, pay attention to what China's doing in Africa. It's businesses. They're not just saying the government is doing this. It's companies that are going and assuming that, but the country is standing behind the businesses. Go ahead.
Britain's acquisition of Burma, Myanmar, was completed in 1886, while its conquest of the Punjab, 1849, and Balochistan, 1854 through 76, provided substantial new territory in the Indian subcontinent itself. The French completion of the Suez Canal, 1869, provided Britain with a much shorter sea route to India. Britain responded to this opportunity by expanding its port at Aden, establishing a protectorate in Somaliland, now Somalia, and extending its influence in the sheikdoms of southern Arabia and the Persian Gulf. Cyprus, which was like Gibraltar and Malta, a link in the chain of communications with India through the Mediterranean, was occupied in 1878. Elsewhere, British influence in the Far East expanded with the development of the Strait settlements and the federated Mali states, and in the 1880s, protectorates were formed over Brunei and Sarawak. Hong Kong Island became British in 1841, and an informal empire operated in China by way of British treaty, ports, and the great trading city of Shanghai.
So all of this is set up through business and commerce, but you look, and it looked like this little old bitty country. And they're controlling all of these things. So when you hear these statements, you need to understand where these people are getting some of their anger from. Go to the next graphic.
The greatest 19th century extension of British power took place in Africa. However, Britain was acknowledged ruling force in Egypt from 1882 and in the Sudan from 1899.
Right. So when you hear of all these racial incidents that's happening, you don't connect that to Britain. You said, man, these Africans over here doing such and such. Who controlling that situation? Go ahead.
In the second half of the century, the Royal Nigger Company.
There you go. see, that's why we had problems with Jamaicans, because they thought they was royal niggas. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want to deal with us. See, we was common niggas. Yeah. Go ahead.
Began to extend British influence in Nigeria, and the Gold Coast, now Ghana, and the Gambia also became British possessions. The Imperial British East Africa Company operated in what are now Kenya and Uganda. And the British South Africa Company operated in what are now Zimbabwe, formerly Southern Rhodesia, Zambia, formerly Northern Rhodesia, and Malawi. Britain's victory in the South African War, 1899 through 1902, enabled it to annex the Transvaal and the Orange Free State in 1902. And to create the Union of South Africa in 1910.
Now, we think a lot of times people like, I'm going to the motherland. All right, you might want to do some research on where you're going. Because all you went to was Mother Britain. Go ahead.
The resulting chain of British territories stretching from South Africa northward to Egypt realized an enthusiastic British public's idea of an African empire extending from the Cape of Cairo, By the end of the 19th century, the British Empire comprised nearly 1/4 of the world's land surface and more than 1/4 of its total population.
So understand something. When Gaddafi started saying he was going to unite Africa and get a African currency, do you understand why he disappeared off the face of the earth? He was messing with Britain money. Now, if you unite these people whom we have specifically divided for a purpose of rulership, then you're messing with our empire. You got to go. Go ahead.
The idea of limited self-government for some of Britain's colonies was first recommended for Canada by Lord Durham in 1839. This report proposed responsible self-government for Canada, so that a cabinet of ministers chosen by the Canadians could exercise executive powers instead of officials chosen by the British government.
So it looked like they're giving them power. Go ahead.
The cabinet would depend primarily on support by the Colonial Legislative Assembly for its tenure of ministerial office. Decisions on foreign affairs and defense, however, would still be made by a Governor General acting on orders from the British government in London.
Right. Understand that. They are still getting their orders from London. Go ahead.
The system whereby some colonies were allowed largely to manage their own affairs under governors appointed by the mother country spread rapidly. In 1847, it was put into effect in the colonies in Canada, and it was later extended to the Australian colonies, New Zealand, and to the Cape Colony and Natal in southern Africa. These colonies obtained such complete control over their internal affairs that in 1907, they were granted the new status of dominions. In 1910, another dominion, the Union of South Africa, was formed from the Cape Colony, Natal, and the former Boer republics of the Transvaal and the Orange Free State.
It's amazing how many business dealings these individuals are making. They are controlling a lot of lands, and a lot of it is not actually coming from war from them. You don't see them sending their troops in all of these things where they're controlling. They send other people. This is the ultimate of control, where you send another group, country, in to fight another country, but then you seize control, and none of your people have had to suffer. That's why Putin said the West will not sit back comfortably from across the water and war no more. What do you think he was talking about? All of this that's happening, not just the situation that's happening with America going to war. He's also talking about Britain. They're able to manipulate and do all of these things. He said, no. We got stuff that'll reach you now. No, so the way that y'all accustomed, and think about how long Britain has been controlling the earth, not one bomb has gone off over there. He said, no, that way of war is over. Go ahead.
This select group of nations within the empire, with substantial European populations and long experience of British forms and practices, was often referred to as the British Commonwealth.
All right, so then now we got to get into what is a commonwealth. Go ahead.
As the British Empire began to fall, it was replaced by what is today called the Commonwealth, or the Commonwealth of Nations, an organization that countries can choose to join or leave. It began in 1931, when the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa formed the British Commonwealth of Nations. Today it is made up of over 50 countries who work and trade together. They also share a common set of values, including fair political elections, the respect of human rights, and working towards international peace.
Right, but saying all of that, it brings forth one thing, and this is the $1 million question that I didn't know or consider reading this. Did you know the queen, who is the head of the Commonwealth, do you know that means that she's the queen of over 50 countries? Do you even really consider that? So when you have all of these people saying something, understand, she's just not the queen of that little place now. Because they have taken over all of these things, she got 50 crowns. So when you read about this stuff in the Bible, you have to see that it is their work. See, I need to read to you their writing, because when you read stuff out of the Bible, people say, the Bible can be interpreted however somebody wants to. See, that's their interpretation. All right, interpretate.britannica.com. Let me see you interpret. Let me see you interpret National Geographic. Interpret that. Interpret. Go ahead. Tell me that's my interpretation. Because the things that Yahweh said was going to happen, they're doing it through business dealings. Go ahead, brother. Did you have something? I know you used to live in that country that is messing with you. See, you're talking about your mother country now.
I can't believe he's talking about the queen. My God. I want some crumpets right now.
Don't start your crying, brother.
No.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I want to talk about a state that I lived in, Virginia, which is it was a commonwealth. It's commonwealth still to this day.
Right.
They have their own separate laws that are commonwealth laws when you're in Virginia. 'Cause we was in the military, we stationed in Virginia. They got a whole, it's to this day.
Right. So then when you start dealing with the commonwealth, but it's going to get a little bit closer to some of the things that you're going to understand about Israel in a second. Go ahead.
The demands and stresses of World War I and its aftermath led to a more formal recognition of the special status of the dominions. When Britain had declared war on Germany in 1914, it was on behalf of the entire empire, the dominions as well as the colonies. But after World War I ended in 1918, the dominions signed the peace treaties for themselves and joined the newly formed League of Nations as independent states equal to Britain. In 1931, the Statute of Westminster recognized them as independent countries within the British Empire, equal in status to the United Kingdom. The statute referred specifically to the British Commonwealth of Nations, stood for the most part of colonies and other dependencies whose predominant indigenous populations had no such experience. For them, a variety of administrative techniques was tried, ranging from the sophisticated Indian civil service, with its largely effective adoption of native practices in civil law and administration, to the very loose and indirect supervision exercised in a number of African territories, where settlers and commercial interests were left much to themselves, while native Africans were segregated into reserves.
All right, so then when you find this situation where the colonizers come over, they create their own boundaries, they create countries, they mingle people. This gives them a system of control. This is why we could not stay segregated. If we were segregated to ourselves, we would keep a culture of our own. It was a part of the plan to separate us, thereby giving them more power to divide and conquer. All right? This is the imperialist colonialism thought that has spread all over the earth. We think it just happened in the South. We think it just happened here. They have done that everywhere they have gone. Now let's go to 2 Kings chapter 17. So there's certain things that you have to understand, that this is the thought process of the colonizer. This is how they operate. So then when you go back to scripture, we already have secular or mainstream, non-religious, if you will, secular history that says the same thing. Now let's go and read 2 Kings chapter 17, and we're going to start that at verse 7.
For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against Yahweh their El,
All right.
which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods.
So it lets you know why we have no protection. We have walked against the culture. Yahweh removed the hedge. Go ahead.
And walked in the statutes of the heathen, whom Yahweh cast out from before the children of Israel, and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against Yahweh their El. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchmen to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom Yahweh carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke Yahweh to anger. For they served idols, whereof Yahweh had said unto them, You shall not do this thing. Yet Yahweh testified against Israel and against Yehudah, by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, Turn you from your evil ways, and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like to the neck of their fathers, that did not believe in Yahweh their El. And they rejected his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain, and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom Yahweh had charged them that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of Yahweh their El, and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal.
So Yahweh is allowing this to go on. It's getting deeper and deeper and deeper. So he's making sure, oh, you're going to earn the punishment that I'm giving to you, so I'm going to let you keep going. But I done told you to stop. Go ahead.
And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger. Therefore Yahweh was angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Yehudah only. Also Yehudah kept not the commandments of Yahweh their El.
Now check that out. So he has removed everybody and left you. See, this is why everybody want to be a Jew. Pay attention, it was only the Jews left. That's why you find everybody talking about I'm a Jew. See, you gotta learn where some of this is coming from. So he done removed everybody. How you gonna still do the same thing? You saw them get removed. So this is what happened when you can't talk to people. You can't talk them off they stand. You can talk to them as much as you want. You can talk to you blue in the face. They have already decided what manner of person they're going to be. Know when you are casting your pearls among swine. Go ahead.
You know, I find verse 17, the word usage, and sold themselves to do evil. You're about to be sold. But walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. And Yahweh rejected all the seed of Israel, and afflicted them, and delivered them into the hand of spoilers, until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rent Israel from the house of Dawid, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drave Israel from following Yahweh, and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them, until Yahweh removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
All right, now, watch what happens with them. Go ahead.
And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel.
Colonialism. It is the exact colonialism that we read from their books. This is what they do. So when people try to say, you know, all of these things about Israel and, well, how did some of these things get there? Colonialism. Go ahead.
And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not Yahweh. Therefore Yahweh sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, The nations which you have removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of the Elohim of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the El of the land.
So these are imposters who have to learn about the God of the land so that they can stay in the land. Go ahead.
Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests whom you brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the El of the land.
Right. Same thing that happened to us today. You have a job, they'll have you teach your new supervisor. You teaching him how to rule over you.
No, don't rule over me like that. Rule over me like this.
Go ahead.
Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel and taught them how they should fear Yahweh.
Right. Now, understand, this is how you know the root of the imposter priests are horrible. They got one of the priests from Samaria. They already got the lowest of the priests to teach them. And they were only learning so that they wouldn't get ate by the lions. So when you start reading about it, that's why I tell people, it was like, we got the holy days, or we gonna call our holy days what the Jewish call theirs? Hell no. They do some strange stuff. People saying, y'all keeping Rosh Hashanah? No, I'm not. This is not my New Year. No, they get to combining stuff. You got to be careful when you deal with the stuff that they dealing with. They combine all kind of things. Why? Because they was already taught by the worst, the lowest of the priests, and they were only taught to do on the surface so that they wouldn't get killed. And those are the ones who have been in the land. We're talking about these new ones who really don't know. You go ask some of them people, about a new moon, they'll look at you like you're crazy. How you not know what a new moon is? Somebody know they counted your days. Go ahead.
I mean, then when you think of the lady at the well, what did she say? How are you speaking unto me, a woman of Samaria? Yehudis have no dealing with the Samaritans.
Right. Y'all don't deal with us, we don't deal with y'all. But then they go get the lowest of the priests to teach these people. Now that's punishment. Yahweh kick you out of land because you won't walk in the covenant. Then let the imposters come in the land and walk any old kind of way. You can't get no more punishment than that. Imagine your daddy punished you for doing something and then let your friends come over there and do it. Come on over here. Do this right here in the yard. Daddy, did you whoop me for doing that? Yeah, I know, and this part of your punishment. I'm going to let them do that in your yard. No, now look out the window and look at them. Now that's punishment. That's punishment right there. You look at your friends, you're riding around on your go-kart. What? He told me not to jump ramps in the go-kart. He said, jump them ramps, jump them. Build your ramp, just go sky high. Go ahead, do that. Yeah, tear his go-kart up, tear it up. By the time you get it, the wheels ain't gonna roll. The motor ain't gonna crank. Right, you gonna learn. Go ahead.
Howbeit, every nation made gods of their own,
and
put them in the houses of the high places which the Samaritans had made. Every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt.
That's why I won't keep. I'm very careful when it talks about the things of the Ish, because they have mixed and mingled with all the other gods that they were already worshiping. So people say, well, do you keep Hanukkah? What am I gonna keep that for? What, Jewish Christmas? That's what it is. No, I'm keeping that. Go ahead.
And the men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Ivites made Nibhaz and Tartak, and the Sarphavites burnt their children in fire to Adremelech and Anamelech, the gods of the Sepharvaim. So they feared Yahweh, and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the house of the high places. They feared Yahweh and served their own gods, after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence.
Right. So they had two manner of things. So when you go to try to listen to these individuals, they have those things of Yahweh merged in with something else. Go ahead.
Unto this day they do after the former manners. They fear not Yahweh, neither do they after their statutes, or after their ordinances, or after the law and commandment which Yahweh commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Yisrael.
Right, because those instructions were given unto Israel. It wasn't given unto the impostors. So that's something that we have not considered. Go to the next graphic, because there's some things that I want, people to understand. First of all, you have a queen who has 50 crowns, all right? And understand that there's, just like the brother had mentioned about Virginia and the Commonwealth, you need to understand the connection between the Commonwealth and 1948 Israeli connection. They were not a Commonwealth. They had a mandate to open up for them. We're talking about this. First of all, it's unheard of that there would be anybody ruling 70 years. But you have this 70-year captivity that was prophesied with Israel. This woman ruled for 70 years and 70 months, 7 months. So when you look at that, it was 2018 that Israel has been a nation 70 years. So understand who was in control of making Israel a state. Understand who made that. And that was overseen by Britain, and then America took over the duties because Britain couldn't physically do it. They used America's muscle to finish the job. So understand who set up Israel. Britain. So that whole Commonwealth thing that you're talking about, where they put other people in place, but they secretly control it, Israel. See, we read all of these things, but we don't connect these dots. Let's go to the next graphic, brother, and I want you to read this.
On May 15th, 1948, the UK withdrew from Palestine. Mm-hmm. It had been given a mandate over the territories after it defeated the Ottomans in World War I. The evening before, David Ben-Gurion, president of the Jewish Agency for Palestine, declared Israel's statehood and independence. This prompted the Syrian, Egyptian, Jordanian, Iraqi, and Saudi Arabian armies to invade Israel.
Right, but understand something. The whole time Britain and America was there, they were training Israel. They were making them a formidable army. They was doing all of this. Meanwhile, the other people are not getting anything. This is British imperialism. They are about to back out and allow this country to self-govern. But then they have agreements with this country. Some of those agreements is also what allows Israel to get any weapon that any of their neighbors have. If they can prove that anybody in the Middle East has a weapon, America has to give them the same weapon. Agreements. Go ahead.
Thus began the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Israelis beat back all of their attackers and established Israel as a state.
Right, and why wouldn't they? They have the best weaponry. They have everything. Britain helped train them, use America to do all of these things, and then step back. They knew it was going to be a slaughter. Go ahead. Oh, and by the way, they de-armed all of the people around them. While arming the Israelis, they took all of the weapons from the Palestinians. They got rocks and sticks. It was a massacre. Go ahead.
To this day, the war is known as the War of Independence in Hebrew and the catastrophe in Arabic. President Truman notably recognized the state of Israel 11 minutes after its founding, making the United States the first country to do so.
And why not? They used their guns to help set it up. Go ahead.
Some of the heaviest fighting occurred in Jerusalem, and several American diplomats witnessed it firsthand. Ultimately, about 700,000 Jews immigrated to Israel.
Stop. Immigrated to. Pay attention. This their writing. Go ahead.
while some 700,000 Palestinian Arabs fled or were expelled and became refugees.
Right. They came and took the houses. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 47. So when you hear people talk about some things that you may think may sound derogatory toward the queen, understand that those loafers hold up 50 crowns. And she didn't get them by nice means. So now, understand, there's a new king in town. Remember that term, King of Kings? Mm-hmm. That means this king is a king of kings. So he got 50 crowns. He has, because he is assuming the authority of all the deeds of his mother. So he's king of all these places. That's why you have, while independent people are saying something, you notice the countries themselves ain't speaking against the queen. They're under her rulership, which means they are under his rulership. You gonna talk about the mama and the son about to put the crown on? That don't sound like a good plan. So they know not to say anything.
You said something about mummy.
You finna die. Isaiah 47, and let's start that at verse 1.
Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for you shall no more be called tender and delicate.
Now, remember now, America was the only one to fight and really pull away at that time. Now smaller countries have been able to gain their independence. So what the rest of the earth is looking at, okay, her muscle is America. America is her bodyguard. If I take the bodyguard out the game changes. Because they hadn't fought in a while. They just get the other people to do the fighting. Go ahead.
Take the millstone and grind meal. Uncover your locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Your nakedness shall be uncovered. Yes, your shame shall be seen.
Right. Her shame is who she's had captive all these years, having the true children of Israel as slaves and the descendants of slaves, while acknowledging another people as Israel that they got out of Germany. He says, oh, no, I'm about to show your shame. Go ahead.
Who was it, Hitler, that said America has the jewels of God?
Uh-huh.
I will take vengeance, and I will not meet you as a man. As for our Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts is his name, the Holy One of Israel. Sit you silent, and get you into darkness, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for you shall no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. I was angry with my people. I polluted mine inheritance.
Go ahead.
And given them into your hand, and you did show them no mercy. Upon the ancient have you very heavily laid your yoke.
Right. So what Yahweh will do, you don't follow his instructions, he'll punish you, he'll take away the hedge, he'll let the heathen do some things to you, but when your punishment is over, he's going to punish the heathen for putting their hands on the apple of his eye. Go ahead.
And you said, I shall be a lady forever, so that you did not lay these things to your heart, neither did remember the latter end of it. Therefore hear now this, you that are given to pleasures, that dwelleth carelessly, that says in your heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. Mm-hmm. But these two things...
This is what wins give you. See? When you winning and you haven't had to take any losses because you go fight in their land. You send other troops to other places. No war is fought on your grounds. This is why they're making those statements showing, oh, we got something that'll reach you. And when you're dealing with some people who dwell carelessly, you dwell carelessly when nobody has ever taken anything from you. You go in a country and you be like amazed.
Hey man, y'all not gonna lock this door?
No man, we don't lock doors around here. What? What's wrong with y'all? We amazed by that thought process of doors not. We be in the car and lock the door while we in it. You go in the country, they ain't even locking the house door. All right, man, what y'all doing? Well, we know everybody around here. Don't nobody lock doors. Oh, y'all there dwelling carelessly. Yeah, y'all ain't, it must ain't, too many boogeyman around here. See, the city full of the boogeyman. We got a boogeyman factory up here. We just making them. They got little boogeymans and middle-aged boogeymans and old boogeymans. They got a whole lot of boogeyman. We got to lock everything. But see, when you got a country that's winning and they dwelling carelessly. So y'all don't even know how to operate without power. Let us lose power for a couple of days. Our whole life changed. There was one thing because they're going in, what was that, Lebanon, where they having, just major financial trouble. The lady went in and robbed the bank, but she was getting her money. That deep when you got to rob the bank for your money. This is stick up. Account 782-349. What? Hurry up, put it in the bag. Put it in the bag. Did you just rob the bank and give them an account number? How you rob the bank and get an account? Because they won't let them take no money out. Mm-hmm. See, that's something we're not ready for. When you got to rob the bank to get your money. No, I don't want no money except what's in 147-34692. That's all the money I want. I don't want nobody else's money. Hey, that's a different situation. Go ahead.
But these two things shall come to you in a moment, in one day. The loss of children and widowhood. Mm-hmm. They shall come upon you in their perfection for the multitude of your sorceries, and for the great abundance of your enchantments.
Right. When you suffer all your losses at once, it's going to hurt. You might want to suffer some losses along the way so you understand what loss feel like. When all your losses come at one time, it hurts. Go ahead.
For you have trusted in your wickedness. You have said, none sees me. Your wisdom and your knowledge, it has perverted you. And you have said in your heart, I am, and none else beside me. Mm-hmm. Therefore shall evil come upon you, you shall not know from whence it rises.
Right. So when these people start making these statements against the colonizers, stop thinking that them people are evil. Saying, I can't believe somebody would say this at somebody's death. Do you understand what all them people did in their life? All of these people that they have enslaved, people in their family who have been murdered and had all of these things. Man, don't call them people, telling people there's something wrong with them. Their family's still suffering. Go ahead.
And mischief shall fall upon you. You shall not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon you suddenly, which you shall not know. Stand now with your heart, with your enchantments and with the multitude of your sorceries, wherein you have labored from your youth. If so be, you shall be able to profit. If so be, you may prevail. Uh-huh. You are wearied in the multitude of your counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, and the monthly prognosticators stand up and save you from these things that shall come upon you. Uh-huh. Behold, they shall be as stubble. The fire shall burn them. They shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame. There shall not be a coal to warm at, nor fire to sit before it. Thus shall they be unto you with whom you have labored, even your merchants from your youth. They shall wander everyone to his quarter, none shall save you.
Uh-huh. Now let's go to Revelation chapter 17. Now you already have descendants of America who believe that, hey, I have, nothing to do with slavery. They don't understand that all their wealth came from the ill-gotten gain of their forefathers. If you think they feel innocent, how innocent do you think the British feel? They feel exceptionally innocent. So when these things come to them, they're going to believe that somebody has treated them unfairly. Revelation 17, and let's start that at verse 1.
And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters.
Sits upon many waters. See, you got to start thinking about, wait a minute now, sits upon many waters. How does she sit upon many waters? 50 crowns. You don't have 50 crowns in one place. That means you cross the oceans. You all over the place. Go ahead.
With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication.
The kings of the earth have committed fornication because they have mingled with her. Go ahead.
And the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
Right. We're going to do business with you. So once they start doing business, their whole country ends up being corrupt in that business deal. Go ahead.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
Leah had sent me a text this morning while we was going through something. She ended up coming across something that the British found that there was pearls over in the Persian Gulf and ended up starting a war so they can get the pearls.
Wow.
What? Mess around and find something over there. You better shut up. You gonna be like Beverly Hills, better shoot around there. That bubbling crude. Shut up. They on their way?
Mm-hmm.
They on their way? Go ahead.
And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
Mother of harlots. See? No. See, now you got the creator, and then you have all the little ones that do its dirty work. So the first thing is the daughter got to be moved out the way because it's the protection. Then you can get to the mama. Go ahead.
And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahshua.
Right, because understand who was over all of the dirt that was done in Jerusalem. The same little old lady in the loafers who looked innocent, and she's visiting all these countries. She's going to visit her subjects when she goes to them places. They come to give her a report of their earnings. Y'all thought she was visiting them because she liked them?
Hello, how are you? Kiss me. Yes. Now open your books. Let me see. Deposit it in this account.
A done deal.
Next.
She's going to collect the money. Go ahead.
And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore did you marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns.
This whole governmental system here. Go ahead.
The beast that you saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is.
Right. You think it's done splintered. It says when the British Empire broke up. Then you look up, man, it's right back. I thought it was destroyed, but it's sitting right here. It has 50 crowns. I thought the Roman Empire was gone. Well, you got a woman who has 50 crowns, how can it be gone? It is, it fell, it was, and it was not, but yet is. Yes. Go ahead.
And here's the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue a short space.
I think that was the thing that you told me. They passed a new law that King Charles can't be king as long as old girl was.
Yep.
Right? What was that law?
She wrote it. I think he's 76 now. She said he can only be king until he's 80 years
To 80.
old. Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goes into perdition. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
See, they're going to share all their rulership with one another, because ultimately they all work for the adversary, the devil. Go ahead.
And they've been talking about this great reset. They say the guy who's been instituting this great reset is also his childhood friend.
Mm-hmm.
So who better yet to help him push it now but the man who's going to be wearing 50 crowns?
Right. You got on 50 crowns, you can operate something, a plan that covers the entire earth. It's not just a plan that will encompass his area. 50 crowns? You can push that. You say this is what's going to happen. And you have to wonder, was the mother trying to protect the world from what's about to come?
Yep, she never wanted him to be king.
You know, did she know?
Oh my God, I'm sinister, but he is sinister. Oh my God. The world thought I was bad.
Go ahead.
These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Adonai of Adonais, and King of Kings.
Right. So he can say, no. I'm going to show you who the real King of Kings. See, you the King of Kings on earth. I'm the King of Kings in heavens. We're going to show you who the real King of Kings is. Go ahead.
And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he says unto me, the waters which you saw, where the whore sits, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
Hello? The waters. When you got 50 crowns, you covering the span of oceans. You cross the wall. You're not ruling just there. And although America has power, she ain't got that kind of power. She not ruling in all of these other countries, but who is? Her mother. Go ahead.
And the 10 horns which you saw upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For Elohim has put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Elohim shall be fulfilled. And the woman which you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth.
And understand, this happens within a certain amount of time. And that time, they have to fulfill their time of rulership. None of that is taking place until that alarm clock, the great alarm clock that Yahweh has set, goes off. So you can try to implement whatever that is you want to implement. You can come, y'all can hold hands and sing Kumbaya. You know, matter of fact, you can sing Kumbaya in Hebrew if you want to. Do all of that. But until that time is set, they got to get that time to rule. But they know that time is coming to a close. That's why we're seeing so many changes. They know that time is winding down. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Psalms 137.
666.
So when the game get down to the end, this is when the trick plays come out. I done tried everything else, you know.
You don't have that in my backyard.
He knew what the deal was, and he's watching all of these other agreements that you done made all over the earth. And if you come and make this agreement in my backyard, do you understand what that's going to do with me? Oh, no. I'll destroy it if I let you have it. Go ahead.
Psalm 137. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. we hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song.
Do you know how vain and self-willed you have to be to require a song of the people that you are persecuting?
Sing me a song. You, captive, come here. Sing me a song.
Do you know how, because there are people that'll tell you, slavery wasn't that bad. This is why they think so.
They were singing songs to us. Clearly, they were not that bad. If they were, they wouldn't be singing.
Yeah, but then you make them sing?
Yes.
Go ahead, brother.
And they that wasted us require of us mirth.
Right. They that wasted us required of us happiness. Go ahead.
Saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing Yahweh's song in a strange land? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget their cunning. If I do not remember you, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. Remember, O Yahweh, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundation thereof.
Right. As it is written, you should not have gone into your brother's land and in his absence. You're going to pay for that. Go ahead.
Is there any history behind during the Holocaust where they were forced to sing songs?
I don't remember them. Okay. I don't know if I want to hear that song.
Come on now.
I don't want to hear that song. I don't want to hear that song at all. I don't think you can dance to Hoffick-Nukin. I don't think that ain't even got a good beat. Go ahead, bro.
O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed.
O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed. Go ahead.
Happy shall he be that rewards you as you have served us.
Right. What you have done to the kings. See, understand Yahweh's position. Yahshua said he's the King of Kings. What comes out of Judah? Kings. I am the King of Kings. All these men behind me are kings. So I'm gonna raise you your kings against me and my kings. So let's see what it do. Go ahead.
Happy shall he be that takes and dashes your little ones against the stones.
All right. That's all that we're gonna do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.